Hello, hello, and welcome to a live version of Feel Good Conversations. Tonight, I am joined by the wonderful and the lovely Dr. Joseph Delaney. I can't help but think of you in that way after you told me that, because I love it. I love any kind of irreverence, and I'm quite partial to a swear word, as people that know me really know. How are you doing?
I'm all right in myself. If I breathe and feel all the way through, I feel fine. I feel clear. I feel okay. I'm okay. I feel great.
Fantastic. Well, I'm just going to put this banner up to sort of invite people in. I can see we've got some people watching. Let's open this chat room. So if you're watching, please do let us know where you're watching from, who are you, and also how are you living on the edge, because that's what we're going to be talking about today. Because there's a lot of things going on. Before we started the show tonight, we were talking about some of the challenges that are facing people right now in terms of kind of keeping our center and keeping our cool. So I think this could get this conversation could go in so many different ways. Where do you want to start, Joe?
Well, I think you're right, and I think there's a lot of people talking about things like long COVID and PTSD associated with the 2 years or more that we've gone through. And now that the sort of restrictions as such are being lifted worldwide, people are realizing, I think, that such a lot of time's being wasted, that maybe they've been duped in all sorts of ways. I mean, I'm not going to get into how I feel about that. I mean, my view is that we have to take personal responsibility, really, for how we either accept or don't accept things, and that's the way I work through things. My thing is about emotional health, really, and it's how to avoid emotional blackmail and coercion. Oh God, I've started. Yeah, and I think to myself, my view is that I'm a fully grown adult, on the outside, definitely not on the inside, but emotionally, I think if I feel pressurized to do something, this rebellious streak comes up in me to tell people to F off. And that's how, and I have that. And I think to myself, oh, you shouldn't be like that, Joe, because, but yes, I should, because it's not really, it's sort of a defense mechanism that comes from deeper than my ego. I can't really explain it other than it emerges up from within me to say, hang on, Joe, you maybe need a bit more time to think this through. So you don't have to let anybody rush you, or, think through, take the information that they're giving you, do some research yourself, sit with it, and then feel what your intuition tells you to do.
You know what? I wonder how many people really did sit with the restrictions and actually think, how is this feeling for me? Because I think so many people took it as this is what we have to do, that they almost closed off that part of them that might be about their personal sovereignty, and they just went, oh, this is just the new normal and this is just how it is, and didn't process it. Because I very much had some very strong feelings about it. And I'm very, very relieved, actually, that the mask mandate has been lifted in Portugal finally. And now you can see people smiling all over the place. It's rather nice. But it did take a few days for people to start easing into it. And I heard reports of people being shouted at in shops, So I think it's quite for people that really believe that there is a huge issue that we've been going through, it must be a very worrying time for them, to suddenly think that they're not being protected. All sorts of things going on there. We've got Owen's joining us from Portugal. He's saying, watching from Portugal, I'm challenged every day, but feck it, I'm doing it. Forgive me. Good evening. Good evening to you, Owen.
Hello, Owen. Are you Irish, Owen? Because that feck it's like an Irish expression.
I don't think he is. I do actually know Owen. He's never sort of like launched into any Irish speak, but I think he likes a bit of a swear word as well.
I think it's just expressive, and they call it the language of spirituality. Effin this and effin that, effin and jeffin. See, this is where I'm really up to. I am responsible for the choices that I make. I am responsible for taking in the information and processing the information at two levels. Cognitively, that's me thinking, and then deeper in feeling. And I think when you're in fear, you don't really, you're not able to go deep into this deeper processing center. So everything's made on automatic reaction, really, and defensiveness, and my job is, as a sort of neuroscientist who's been through a bit of stuff and learned this from personal experience, I know that things like mindful breathing, and more body awareness, and being able to create more space in order to allow thoughts to percolate more freely, to allow us time to make more informed choices and decisions. That's the way forward. And I think to point the finger and say, this is what they're doing to me, misses the point about personal responsibility, because nobody does anything to me without my permission at some sort of a level. And that's where I'm up to in my life now. Whether, I'm happy now that I'm 100% responsible for the consequences of the choices that I make. 100%. And I think somebody told me a long time ago, if you're pointing the finger that way there, that's an act of disempowerment, because there's three fingers coming back to say, I call this ism, I, self, me. How am I allowing this to happen to me? What in me needs to change in order to give me the courage to say, hang on, big boy, take a step back. I'll make my decision, not because I'm being forced or coerced by you. I'll make my decision when it feels right and sits right with me. Louisa, that's how I live my life now. And it pisses a lot of people off, because a lot of people don't think that I live my life correctly, because if I only lived my life the way that they said, then they think the world would be a better place for me. No, bollocks. Oh, dear, there you go.
I love it. Owen is saying, to be sure. Nice little reference to Irish language there. Gaining wisdom. Louisa Tanner. Greetings from Louisa Tanner. Oh, okay.
Louisa looks like Louisiana.
Louisiana. Oh, I get it. Thank goodness you're there to read as well. I've been like sat in the sun all day, so I'm gonna pretend I've damaged my retina with the sunshine or something. It's nice to be joined by you. Thank you so much for joining us today from Louisiana. Now, you were talking about like the responsibility and how you know that like you are 100% in charge of you. How did you get to that place? I mean, because, like the title for this is like living on the edge. And we were kind of joking about what that title might mean. But, that does seem quite edgy, to be 100% completely in control of your life, or to know that you're responsible, not completely in control, but you are 100% responsible. How do you get to that place? Because, when I look at what people get taught in schools and things like that, it's always that there's what I'm seeing, these kind of shades of there's this problem and there's that problem. And if it wasn't for this, this would be perfect. And not so much on empowerment. So how do you get there?
The way I got there was, rather than being on the edge, I was on the brink for a long, long time. And I was on the brink because I'm quite a sort of sensitive chap, really. And I've been able to sort of pick up feelings, more extended than most people. And I didn't know that, I mean, there's books out on highly sensitive people, and I can see that I was born as a sort of emotionally highly sensitive individual. They used to call them in tribes, they used to call them sensitives, and sensitives, their job, and they were born and their purpose was to feel stuff before the rest of the tribe, so that they could almost act as a sort of cautionary sort of outlook, if you like. So
we're the canaries in the coal mine, aren't we? We're the human canaries. Exactly. When life starts going wrong and all the canaries drop dead, it's like, oh, yeah, we stressed out the sensitives. We are the warning signal, aren't we, for humanity?
We are, and some people might call us the light carriers or the way showers, or I don't get into all that nonsense. Baloney. I'm going to say baloney. It's more polite. But once I knew what was going on, but for a long time in my life, I found that in order to live in sort of normal society, for want of a better way, if I drank, it sort of disinhibited me and anesthetized me from the oversensitivity to these things. So what I needed to, in order to act and appear normal and actually hold down any jobs for a long time, I had to drink a certain amount of alcohol to keep me sort of normalized, if you like, and optimized, you know. And then when the sensitivity grew, because it's a never-ending process, sensitivity increasing all the time, I needed more and more and more drink to try and get that level playing field, if you like. And then one day it didn't work anymore, so I had to take high-powered sedatives and anything at all that would make my feelings change to give me some sort of, normality. And then obviously I became addicted to the alcohol. I lost my job, I lost my family, I lost my home, I was living homeless, all these sorts of things. And people would say to me, but Joe, surely you can stop being like this. You've got such strong willpower. And I used to say that to myself, what the effing hell's wrong with me? You know, and I realize now that there was nothing wrong with the way that my thinking was working. I don't mean the thoughts. It was emotional. The problem was emotional. And you can't think your way out of emotions that powerful, because they've got much more power. And I'll just do this it sounds more like a lecture, this, but the consciousness bit above the surface of the iceberg represents 1/5 of awareness, if you like. It's the 4/5 underneath that direct operations all the time. And the consciousness on the top, up to a point, can say to the bottom one, right, that's enough now. And for a while, it's able to regulate it. However, over time, the more stuff that you repress and compress, the more it's waiting just to explode, right? And I know now that we have this conscious, unconscious. There's another part of a human being that's called the higher power, or the superconscious. I had to be shown how to tap into that, surrender my life and my will and my life over to the care of this super conscious power. This sounds a bit weird now, right?
No, it's great. Keep on.
And then that's called my intuition. Now Maslow's hierarchy of needs talks about this. Maslow knew this. Carl Rogers knew this, that the human being goes through levels of towards self-actualization. But what happens in the world that we live in now, they call it the 3D world, is we only get to 3 dimensions or 3 stages, and we just keep looping round, and we keep doing the same thing that we've always done without any further sort of evolution. I taught evolutionary psychology at Liverpool University for years, so I'm sort of quite used to the terminology. But to get to the thing is, once I surrendered my thinking, and metaphorically, if you like, decapitated myself and threw that away, and started to work from a deeper heart presence, my life transformed totally. It was miraculous. And I suppose this is what religions and spiritual things have been going on for ages, that if you live a heart-centered life, I actually believe it's the heart of hearts. It's a soul-centric life. And I'm not a religious person, you know. This is more like quantum science to me these days. So just to put the end to this, every morning I wake up, Louisa, and I just tap on my heart, and I listen in with my ear, and I say, hello, is there anybody in there? Because I'm a very religious type person. I'm not religious in the slightest. And then I wait for a sort of a little feeling, and I sort of get a, yes, we're here, son. Right. You know, and whether that be angels or ETs or whatever, it doesn't matter to me. I get a sense of that there's some sort of a guiding presence that will give me the information I need, breath by breath, and show me what actions to take in order for my quality of life to improve. And that was 30 years ago. I tried to kill myself. I should be dead. It didn't work for obvious reasons. I got a feeling that something kicked me up the bottom and said, look, son, right, stop thinking and stop trying to work things out. We'll show you one step at a time, and you show others, and the world will become a better place.
Fantastic. I love that on so many counts. But before I kind of respond to that, I just want to say hello to one of our somebody who's watching us today. Inner Peace with Denise. Is that somebody you know? I don't think Inner Peace with Denise has joined me on a show before. So hello.
That'll be my mate Denise from Yorkshire.
Well, it's really nice to be joined by you. Thank you so much. Now, Carl, this is my husband, expats Portugal. Stop thinking, amen. I was just about to say that. When you were talking there about like kind of wanting to cut off your head and stop thinking, one of Carl's favorite books is, is The Way of No Thinking. I may have got the title wrong, and if I have, apologies. But yeah, there really is something in, the way of no thinking. And once you stop thinking and trying to work out what's right for you, all of a sudden it's like the divinity comes in. I really liked what you were saying about strong will, when you were talking about the alcoholism and how people were saying, I can't understand how you get there. There's this idea that if you have an addiction that you don't have a strong will, but I disagree with that, because I think it takes real balls to drink yourself so drunk that you could almost kill yourself. It takes a lot of determination to do that. A lot of people haven't got the stomach for that. A lot of people really won't push themselves that far. So I think, anyone with a strong addiction actually has a very strong will. And our thinking around it also creates problems with that. You have to be very determined to take it to that level, don't you?
I agree. It's called egomania.
I know for myself. Yeah.
Egomania, and I think that's what has to be smashed in the end. We have to come. I honestly believe this is where my thinking is, or my feeling is at the moment. I think that the globe, every single person on the planet now, we're going through a massive paradigm shift and change in consciousness. There's almost like waves and waves and waves of new consciousness sweeping in. That's basically forcing people to say, let go now of all your old ideas, emotions, and attitudes. Let go of all the previously formative forces of your life, because that dimension's going now. That's old hat. It's like updating a computer, in it, and and stuff like that. So this new wave of new information and new dimensional stuff's coming in, whether we like it or not, and everybody has to hit a rock bottom. And I see a rock bottom as the crucifixion that all humans have to go. So there's obviously like a religious connection there if you want to go down that way, but I think everybody is being forced to be crucified, right, so that a new level of living's trying to come in. And I think that the more you hang on to it, the more pain. See, hanging on causes pain, right? Letting go lets go of the pain. So, but the whole point is there's like an in-between bit that we talked about before, where there's like, don't know what to do. And it's like a gray zone where you sort of have to have blind faith in trust that something better's coming. And the only way that you can really get that is by people who've been through it and and their lives are being improved as a consequence of following this. And I think that you are one of those. I'm one of those. For some reason, we're no better than anybody else. It's just that we have more of a sort of, we're on the edge with our chin sticking out, getting twatted all the time, It's like, I mean, I get so much when I come out with this, and I don't care anymore about trying to, not upset people and stuff like that. I just say it as it's coming out. Now, if anyone gets upset by it, it's because the standards that they hold within themselves don't correspond to what's being said. That's all, isn't it? We only ever fall out with anybody when we're not getting our own way, or people aren't thinking in the way that we should. That's the only reason that we ever fall out with anybody, So,
you know what? My husband is going to think you're like his new personal hero, because he absolutely loves that. Like, he'll say, you're just upset because you haven't got your own way. And I'll be like, what? How dare you say that? And then actually, when I think about it, he's right. But like when we are wanting our own way, we have all these different manipulations that we've learned, and those manipulations exist in our language, in our culture. We see them on the TV, and we actually believe the manipulations are coming from a pure heart. And it takes a lot of courage to actually go back and actually think, hang on a sec, is this actually true? Now, Carl is actually saying, well said, Joe, there's no escape. We really do have to. I mean, I was saying in this last month, the astrology, we've had this fairly rare alignment, and it's a very expansive alignment in a place of consciousness. and it's also not very specific, so anything goes. So like whatever you're dreaming of, if you're kind of in an expansive and upward way, you can really create and expand. But if you're, and I don't mean to say up versus down, but if you're in a slightly negative route, or you're not really tuning into your heart necessarily, this expansive energy is going to take you more into the nightmare. And so I've been experiencing, in particular with my clients, even the heart expanded ones, myself included, you know, I think I'm on an upward path. We've all been really hit sideways, as if someone's like whacked us around the head with a 4x4, you know, it's like donk. And it's like, where did that come from? It's these are times, I mean, I've had to stop and think, okay, I need to let go of that. I need to let go of that, because trying to balance, keep my focus on, like, I've got one foot in one world and then one foot on the expectations of where I want to be in the future, and like living in the gap of that, whew, impossible right now.
I agree totally. And it's that surrender from one moment to the next, to a force that's more intelligent than us, right? More loving than us, more understanding than us, and can see, because it's got expanded consciousness and sees everything. It knows exactly what we need. And it's almost as if, and I don't know, you know, whether this is true or not. And I would say to the people listening, don't believe a single word I say unless it sort of rings true. Then go and do a bit more research. But all I'm doing is sharing how my gob works, how my mind works. You know, if it doesn't work the same as yours, that's all right. Thank goodness for that. You know, because I think that's what the political people of the world want. They want us all to be standardized so that we can't think for ourselves, so they can feed us and think for us, you know. So,
well, thank goodness. Thank goodness for sort of new entities such as the Ministry of Truth, or else we wouldn't know what was going on.
Hang on, I'll just ring up to find out whether this is true or not. You know, hiya, they're saying this on the BBC, that this is happening. Is it true or not? Yes, it is. Believe everything that's being said by the BBC. I don't think so. You know,
it sounds like something from Harry Potter. I mean, what the hell? Anyway, your friend in a piece with Denise has confirmed that you are right. It is indeed your friend. So that's great to know. Thank you for letting us know. So, yeah, I mean, what's that about, where, you know, all of a sudden, you know, like we've been told where to get our truth from. Like, where do you get your truth from? How do you tune into the truth? How can people tune into their own truth, Joe?
Well, to me, truth, there's a place that exists between two polarities. And within each human being, in the way I explain things, there's a masculine component and a feminine component. Now, I'm not saying male and female. That's completely different, because I believe that a male, right, is a biological thing and a female is a biological thing. But I think within all human being, and each cell of the body, if you like, use a masculine and a feminine component. The masculine component is called ergotropic, and that means do stuff and gets the work done. Ergotropic. The feminine side is trophotropic, and that means nurturing and caring.
Trophotropic.
The masculine side is associated with the outside of the body, the somatic system, and the visceral
boundaries.
Yeah, the boundaries, and also the defensiveness as well, and the protection, you know, so that's all to do with the outside. The feminine component, and that's light, by the way, associated with the sun, if we're going to get into everything. But the deeper, darker side, the womb side, the black side, right, is the feminine, which is associated with the viscera. And the viscera are your internal organs. And that's why there's a lot of digestive problems going on, because when people get stressed, we get into fight and flight, and then all the blood then is supplying the muscles. So all the internal organs don't work properly, because we're living on the fight and flight, masculine defensive. I didn't know I was going to talk about this, but it's coming out.
No, it's great. It's perfect.
So what happens is, dead simple, we lose flexibility because of muscle contraction, and the muscles stay in that tense state because they're receiving signals that say, need to defend, need to defend, need to defend. So our body takes on the posture of our defensive attitude. Now, some people, they're like that with their heads there, that type of person head. Some people, their jaws, they grind their teeth at night because that's a very, very powerful response, the biting response. Bite your throat out, you see. So these are all like animal-like tendencies. Some people close their throat over and speak high because that's trying to contain the oxygen in the lungs. So there's all these physical responses to the fight and flight. The first thing to do is become aware of the signals that your body's trying to send you. Right. And then, because we've probably been on the same old habit for a long, long time, we need to unwind those things like Tai Chi, Qigong, massage, yoga, Hatha yoga, Yin yoga, all those releasing yogas will reset us then to normal, balanced, optimal state. Then our minds change because the way our heart work changes. And then the way our heart sends signals out to our head will determine either a contracted or an expanded consciousness, right? So to answer your question, how do you get into that? You put your hands on your heart like that. You can do it that way. If you're a child, I do this with kids, do like little wings, like of a dove. So you put that onto your heart, wherever your heart is, right? Try and find one. That's a good idea. Or I do another one called cradling the sacred child. So you take a little infant, and you put your left hand over your heart and you put your right hand over it, or it could be the other way around, whichever's comfortable. And you can imagine that you're snuggling a little child in there. And then if you go in a nice quiet place, play some music that resonates with this feeling. And imagine that your heartbeat and the child heartbeats are synchronizing. So you're beating as one. Okay. And then you breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. And you do that for 3 10-minute sessions a day, every day. And what happens is, and neuroscience has shown this, is you start to develop new neural pathways in your brain associated with a more positive, relaxed, balanced state. And then everything changes then. And then when you come out of that, Louise, you can feel the discomfort of it. So then you can go, hang on, I'm out of balance. I'm out of flow. I need to get back. And so you take a step back rather than going forward on the defensive. You take a step back, go into this synchronous breathing, and then it's almost like a space develops in your mind. So you've got a whole load more options. And I would say more than anything else is I tap on my heart like that. I mean, I've done this for a long time now, so I can sense the feeling. Just to answer the end of your question, how do you do it? You find this 0 point or this neutral space. You sink into it and you say, give us a clue because I'm in the shit and I don't know what to do. Right. And then sometimes you might get a voice. Some people get voices. Some people get really powerful thoughts. Some people will get a clue off the radio, a song or something like that. You have to work with it and get to know how your intuition, your inner guidance, how your intuition is guiding you to the next step that you take to go forward. Now, this could all be bollocks, this, and you might want to dismiss this because who's this nutter? This has saved my life. And it's changed my life completely. And I don't really get into the religious side of it. I don't do that. I've dispensed with the religious thing and all that. Most of my stuffs now is more to do with theoretical physics, right? And quantum consciousness, and we can talk about that.
Oh, it's one of my favorite subjects. I love it. And that's how we got together in the first place, because you were on Jeff Granville's show. And of course, we've all worked together, haven't we? Or not like all of us together at the same time, but we've all got a similar interest. And it's funny that you were talking about the breathing, because I was learning a lot about Jeff's coherence breathing that he talks about. And a lot of times last year when I felt stressed, I was like, right, I'm going to start his coherence breathing. And it's just so handy to be able to like go inside yourself for a moment and just it really within seconds my physiology changes very, very quickly. And I loved when you were talking about with a child, like imagine you've got a child. Well, we've got 3 that are quite young, and my 3-year-old in particular, we just cuddle and hold each other. I don't know if you noticed, but I started rocking when you said imagine a child, and I was just imagine holding my son. But during the pandemic, one of the things that gave me a lot of pleasure was just brushing my daughter's hair. Yeah. And it was just such a meditative thing, and it was calming. It's like stroking a pet, you know. Like brushing her hair. We've got a lovely comment here, which I think is great. Gaining Wisdom and said, "Why so tense? Past tense, future tense, present tense."
Or I mean, camping intense.
But I mean, our language doesn't always help. I noticed as well, and there are some people that say it's deliberate, and some people that say it's not. It almost doesn't matter if it's deliberate or not. But in our actual language, we talk about being in a week, like Monday to Friday, are weekdays.
Yeah,
we're in a weekdays, and then at the weekend we're weakened.
Right. I love wordplay. It's like if you don't go to an AA meeting, 7 days without a meeting makes 1 week. You see what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But words are important. I mean, we're talking in the English language, you know, and I do believe that the way that we've been conditioned and programmed was on purpose as well. You know, what's actually happening. I think people who are dyslexic have got more chance of understanding outside of the box stuff than anything else. You know, there's actually a physiological correlate here. There's a gene called the FOXP2 gene, and people who don't have FOXP2 gene, they are naturally inclined towards dyslexia because they have an absence of the FOXP2 gene. So there's all sorts of mind, body, mind connections and stuff like that. And I honestly believe, you know, I've done a lot of stuff about genetics and epigenetics. I think that it's the epigenetics that surround the gene codes, right, that are trying to express themselves. I think that's where the obstructions are. And if we can find ways to reprogram or deprogram, actually, and basically chip this shroud off, I think that, and the natural, and this is what a Buddhist believe, the natural shining face of the original face will come through and express itself. And I think that's actually what's happening now. This wave's coming in to clean away all that crap and to allow the original template of the soul, which is individual for each character, right, will come through. And when that comes through to express itself, there's a specific person or key associated with that individual standing wave, if you like, which will make the whole picture full, you know. And I see this in my mind, you know. For a long time I've studied things called energetic synthesis, you know. It's by somebody, Lisa Renee's worked on that for years. And also Ashayana Dean as well, this Keylontic science. And there's all stuff here that it's just mind-blowing, because all of my life I've had these pictures that come to me, and I've never been able to explain it, but more and more now they're coming to the fore, and people are putting up mathematical diagrams that explain to me what I've been seeing all my life now. It's almost like I have to see it and I say, I know what that's all about, you know. So I sort of see these things now. And read things not for information anymore, but for confirmation of what's been coming to me for a long time, you know.
So, I mean, where do you think we're actually going? I'm not trying to like skip to the grand finale or anything, but you know, you were saying, you know, you're not reading for information, you're reading now for confirmation. Like, where do you think we might be heading? I mean, I think that we are heading towards an awakening time, and the more one person raises their vibration, it sends a ripple out and it helps everyone else release stuff. I mean, it's going on all the time, and as we do it in our own families, I think it ripples out to the other family members and in your community and stuff. I like when you were talking about like this beautiful template, that our template gets revealed and released. I see us like human tuning forks, and we start to resonate. And you know, like when you've got two tuning forks, they start to pulse together, don't they? And of course, the more that happens, the more it happens even further away. And so we are like these human tuning forks. But that's what I'm seeing coming. But what do you think is happening? You know, what's your intuition saying?
I think that we're moving more and more to the biggest feeling of love that people can possibly know. It's a feeling, really. And I think that
Yeah.
the feeling will direct our actions, really. Because, you know, when you're in love, people can call you all the bastards under the sun and you go, yes or no, yeah. You know, you could try and find every single insult in the world and you go, yeah or no, yeah. And I think that that's what's happening, is more and more as hearts open and souls come through, and the light body, if you like, or the car, or the Merkaba, or whatever you want to call these things, as that infiltrates and penetrates the physical body and starts to work. See, I get this clearly, you know, and astrologers fall out with me over this. So I hope you don't fall out with me, but I
Probably
see that it's not the moment of birth that's important. It's the moment of conception that's important, because that's when the whole process starts. Now, I know that's difficult because you can't just simply add 9 months on and say it's there, you know. but what I'm saying is that's the initial spark. And call that, if you like, the big bang. You know, it's a small bang, really. Yeah, and men, you know, only have a small part to play in this, because really it's an activation of what's already present, you know. And I get all this stuff as well, but at the moment of conception, this is what I get shown in my mind. True or false, I don't know, and it doesn't really matter. But I get, at that point, a cosmic snapshot is taken, like a Polaroid view of the universe. Now, that what I've shown now is that snapshot then, right, enfolds itself, it folds inwards, right? And that becomes the connective tissue, or the map, where the organs migrate to and stuff like that. See what I mean?
Wow.
So there's a physical thing going on. So really, the journey of the human is a journey of consciousness, where the individual has to navigate on its own map, which represent the physical body. It has to navigate through it, meet the challenges associated with those geographical, anatomical places, right? And that's its journey then. It's a bit like Jason and the Argonauts traveling to different lands. But in order to find out how to do this and reset the balance and realign with the cosmos with a K, see, I get all this stuff, right? Am I going on too much here? Or
No, okay. Carry on. Love it.
So we've got this cosmological sort of mapping us, but in order to find out, we have to stop looking outwards, to start looking inwards, really, and start to traverse from inside out. So that's where I'm up to with stuff, and it sort of relates a bit to Taoism, this, because they believe that the person's journey is associated, right, you know, with consciousness and stuff like that. But that could, once again, it could be nonsense, but this is what I wake up with. And I wake up in the morning and think, oh, fuck, you know, is it a mountain today, or have I got to, like, swim a river, or what have I got to do? No, you can get the bus today. You can have a day off, you know. I think, thank God for that.
Do you know what? I love that, because well, for so many reasons. And I want to ask you about the K at the end, by the way. But my understanding of birthing, I heard our children talking to us. You know, I said, Carl, there's a baby on the way. You know, there's a soul wanting to join us, and it's really funny because I remember birthing my first son. It felt like that actually I carried the whole universe in my womb. You know, I didn't feel like I was human. In fact, if I could chug down a really strong black coffee, if I could have smoked all the way through my pregnancy, I would have done, because I felt lightheaded the whole way through all of my pregnancies. I was addicted to Coca-Cola, just sugar, anything to keep me grounded. I just needed to be grounded. I felt so floaty, and I heard them talking to me all the way through my pregnancy. But the sense that I had the whole universe in my womb was really, really immense. And I think when women are birthing, I think the sounds that they use are portal openers. Because I swear to God, the sound that came from me, I can't make now. When I was birthing my first child in particular, the sound I reached was like nothing I'd ever done, but I recognized that it was a vibration, it was a frequency, and it was there to open me up. It was there to deliver him. And I also experienced that about a month before I birthed, with all my children, but in particular the first, you know, I had this intelligent soul in me, and I had this very intelligent soul talking to me, downloading all sorts of stuff all the way through. And then about a month before he was born, all of a sudden, where is that intelligence? All of a sudden I had this like baby. And, you know, people talk about us being wiped prior to birth.
Yeah.
My experience is all of a sudden I felt like I'd lost my child. You know, I was poking him to check he was still there because I couldn't hear him. But he was there, and his, you know, whatever was there, whatever intelligence he already had at that point, I think was wiped. Maybe for him to later rediscover, but it was a very intense and heady time. So I think the mysteries of life definitely start even before the big bang that brings them in. You know, they were already ready to come through. And that's another thing that I'm only just really learning now, funnily enough. You know, I always thought that I was a body with a soul, but that's the wrong way round. I'm a soul that has a body. And when you look at your life like that, you know, it's a complete, it puts you back into a place of power and sovereignty, doesn't it? You know, to understand that you are eternal. It's just your body that's not.
And I think that that's what's happening to people now. They're having spiritual awakenings, right? And all that means is that their human consciousness is realizing that maybe they're not human having a spiritual experience. It's a spirit on a human journey. And that's the start. Spiritual awakening and psychic changes, it's the start. But a lot of people, when they have them, they think it's the finish, and they've entered the rapture, or the events happened, and that's the end of it. You know, no. In my view, that's the beginning of it, really. And that's the start of the real essential journey towards self-actualization. You know, there's lots and lots of people who are predicting that this is when the event's going to happen, you know. Now, they may be right, or they may not be right. The way I live my life now is I wake up in the morning and make the best of every day. And then when I go at night, I wake up and do the same thing again. So whether there's an event happening or not, it makes no difference to the principles that I live by. And I don't really get into predictions, but I'm going to give a prediction now. I woke up 2 weeks ago with this thought in my mind: tell them about May the 5th in America. Right. And I said, because I say, okay, because I got USA 5th of May. Right, there it comes again. It's coming now again. Right. And again, write this out: May the 4th protect you for May the 5th. Right. USA. Now, Louisa, I don't know what that means, but all I do is I just voice it, and and people say, well, give us a bit more information. I can't. All I'm doing is I'm saying to you, right, it could be some sort of be cautious. This could be the event. I don't know. You know, I'm not a predictor, because my view, if anyone says to me is, how do you do it? I'll say, I just try and make the best of every single day, and make sure my heart's open and flowing as best that I can. That's the end. And that's how simple my life is. And then all this other stuff's filing in all the time, you know. See, I honestly believe, this is what I've got told, and I got told a long time ago. The heart is the master. It's the master regulator. It's connected in an anatomical way to the 12 cranial nerves. The 12 cranial nerves are attached to the 12 meridians, right? The 12 meridians are representative of 12 planets, right? And then you've got the 12 tribes, the 12 disciples, the 12 astrological signs. And then again, work it out for yourself, Joe. As within, so without. Whatever's going on in the cosmos. And when I say cosmos, I mean...
Oh, yeah, what was the K? Where's the K from?
It's the origin. It's not the cosmos. See, because as we come further down the line and sort of descend further into materialization, it becomes a C then. That's like a mini sort of version, really. So I got the 12 Russian dolls. Each human being now is being given the opportunity to open up fully, and these 12 portals or dimensions or streams of consciousness are all coming online. The reason people are cracking up is they don't know how to process the information properly, and they need to be shown how to emotionally stay calm while the information streams in. They'll get to know 3 months after it's landed. So don't be trying to work anything out. Just accept the process, let it come in, try and stay calm. It'll freak you out, but just know that it's a process that you'll understand in a few months' time when you look back. You can't know what's coming looking forward, because you'll try and duck and dive and dodge and weave and get out of stuff. You can't, because what's actually happening is all the stuff that you've buried is going to come up to the surface now, so you can really look at what you've been keeping secret. And I think, don't tell anybody that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, 1,000 times yes is what I want to say. Wow. First of all, it's my wedding anniversary tomorrow. I say mine, it's mine and my husband's and probably loads of other people's. But we actually married on May the 4th. Not just because of that, but it was the best astrology on the day for that year. And we had a couple of astrologers at our wedding, funnily enough, and they both said, wow, you've picked the best day. Well done. So it's our 9th wedding anniversary. But yeah, I do like the fact that, you know, we've got that sort of like May the 4th be with you. I love that. But talking about the event and 5/5 or May the 5th, I think it's becoming more and more likely that there is going to be an event, because people are living in between these two spaces right now, and it's doing their heads in. A bit like, you know, when well, a bit like pregnancy, you know, when you're about to give birth. As an expectant mum, you are waiting and waiting and waiting, and you're wanting it to start. And at the same time, you're fearing it starting. And actually, the best thing is when it just starts itself. And all of a sudden, you can't overthink it anymore. You're in the middle of the birth, and there's absolutely nothing you can do. Once that baby is coming, there's nothing you can do to manage it. I mean, yeah, you can take pain control and you can do breathing and stuff, but it's not really going to change. You know, the baby is coming. And that's, you know, like there is an outcome. And I think one of the difficult things at the moment for people is there is a sense that something is about to change. We don't know when it's going to happen. And you're right. We're all looking ahead. Come on, let it be today. Let it be tomorrow. I mean, for 2 years now, I've been thinking to myself, you know, I could do with a bit of a break. I really want the world to just go tits up for a bit, you know, and the internet to go down for a bit, so I can have a break. And the ridiculousness of it is that I should just turn everything off and just go deep inside myself. But I think the fact that so many people are just wanting to be out of the misery now, you know, we're getting so close to delivery date of our baby. I think we're bringing it on ourselves now. Even people who possibly are starting to suspect, have I been conned? Has my whole life been a lie? You know, and all these little questions, you know, they don't even know. But the insecurity of not knowing, once you get that little whisper in your head, it becomes really difficult to ignore it. And so I think we're all kind of co-creating that now.
I agree.
It could be quite a few. It could be quite a few events as well, not just one.
Yeah, and I think that the security comes when you get to know this intuition, this deeper sense of you. I think, and they feel the flow. You know, what happened to me is when I had the so-called spiritual awakening, I started to feel a flow inside of me, you know, and that's when I understood about healing then, because I sort of knew about healing at a sort of knowledge level. But it was only when I started to feel the feelings that went with it that I understood, you know. And I think that there are many, many dimensions of feelings. And the deeper you go, the quieter it becomes, and the more intelligent and the more understanding that you get. And I think that's the difference between knowledge and wisdom, is that, you know, the wisdom comes through as a knowing. And I know that you know what I'm saying here, but when I say metaphorically decapitate ourselves, when you take your head off and you don't listen to a word that your head's saying, because that's basically just based on memory, so that you're always living from the past then, because it's a stored thing. But with this spontaneity or extemporaneousness, that word, you live without a script. You just live with feeling and trust the process, that it will guide you to the best and the wisest choices possible. They call it, Louisa, they call it choiceless awareness, because the ego, which is basically the left and the right brain, it doesn't need to make any choices anymore, because it's totally aware, and it will be guided in like a singularity to the next thing to do. So there's no indecision, because there's no shall I do this, shall I do that. There's just knowing what to do next. It just comes spontaneously, you know. And that's happening to me more and more and more. I just get a feeling. I put my heart out like that. Can I work with this people? And I get, and then can I work with this person? You know, and whether that's soul's connections from before or whether it's just the right time, I don't work it out anymore. I don't, you know, they might be really, really well-known authoritative figures that I get, meh, and I go, okay, just leave it, you know. So that's where I'm up to. It's really simple, but it's really complex, but it doesn't have to be complicated, you know.
That's so nice. I love what you said, choiceless awareness. Choiceless awareness. I was speaking to somebody, a hypnotherapist that I've known for years, called Vinny, and he was talking about non-interference healing. And that kind of resonates with that. I love it. I love it. We're getting a couple of well, not even comments, because actually people are going into their heart space. So Jackie Grant is, ooh, thank you, Jackie. And then we've got John Drake doing the same pretty much. And a peace sign. So yeah, I mean, I guess we're all feeling the wisdom in these words and allowing them to kind of settle in us. You know, I'm guessing that Jackie and John are listening and recognizing that they've got that going on too, no doubt, you know. It's hard. Good to know.
It's hard, especially for head workers who've used their ducking and diving and thinking, and you know, it's hard to let go of that totally. And I think that's why I think the crucifixion is. It's when you let go of that ego self, and then you sort of, and the less you struggle, the easier it is really to move into the next dimension. I mean, I see a rock bottom really as a ceiling to the fourth dimension. Then it's almost like a drill going through the ceiling. But, you know, we're always missing the mark. So if you just stop, do this mindful breathing, you stop long enough for this force to come in behind you to go, whoop, there you are, son, now you're in, now carry on, you know. And I think you're going into this new room, you know, where you've got to learn a whole new set of how it's done and stuff like that, you know. I mean,
like when you go to senior school.
Well, exactly, and I do see that. I do see as the soul's curriculum. I think that whether we incarnate or we're working in a different dimension, I'm not too sure about all that, and I'm not that bothered about it really. But I do feel with the things that happen when I'm sitting there or whatever, I do feel that my radar's expanding even more. However, I don't get so emotionally freaked out anymore. Because I was taught a long time ago, here are the signs that your ego's frightened again. So you've got fear, you've got resentment, you've got self-pity, you've got anger. All these negative traits are the ego, because the divine only loves. So if you're not in a feeling of open, flowing, loving feeling, that doesn't mean to say that if you lose a close friend, you can't feel grief. But it's not a contracted feeling. You know, it's an open feeling of flowing, of loving grief and stuff like that, you know. You know, there's lovely words like intelligent kindness. It's a flowing. I would say to what I've learned is beware of fantasizing and beware of sentimentality, because sentire means to feel and mental means to make it up with thinking. And I think when you haven't had any true feelings, you have to make it up and everything becomes dramatic. Then it becomes like an act, doesn't it, really? It's a bit like when you're having an argument with someone and the phone goes and you go over and you're nice to that person and then you put the phone back. You put the phone back and you carry on where you left off before.
Where were we?
But you know, with a true and honest feeling, you couldn't do that. It's just too powerful, you know. So these are just some tips that I've learned, you know, so far. And I only ever feel like I'm just scratching the surface, you know.
Yeah. I really love that. My ego has been talking quite a bit recently, and I guess, you know, there's nothing wrong with that happening. It's you know, can you catch yourself in the moment, and what's your next step? You know, what are you going to do about it? And I quite like Chuck Spezzano. Have you come across Chuck Spezzano? He's a oneness teacher. I think he does the Course in Miracles and goes around it, and he has a monthly newsletter which I quite like, and he's also got this a deck of cards that he's written from his psychological practice and from the people that he works with, and they're really inspired, these little, you know, these cards that come out. And so I picked one of his cards the other day, and it was judgment. And as I was reading it, all of a sudden I could really see a lot of the games that I'd been playing laid out really, really clearly. I was so shocked by it. And there was one thing that was really underpinning all of my judgments. And I cried for quite a while when I realized what I'd been doing, but I hadn't really trusted. That was my biggest thing that has left me into judging people, judging situations, is that I hadn't trusted that things would go okay for me. There's been some kind of, rather than going into situations in maybe with open-hearted vulnerability to see what's going to happen, I've gone into situations with my guard up and with an inner distrust. And I'm really kind of shocked by that, because I think of myself as a very sort of open and welcoming, and then I realized, that my people pleasing was just part of an act. I mean, I do think, I do want people to have a nice experience, and I want to have a nice experience, and I like to help, and this, that, and the other. But I had to really sit down with myself and think, okay, well, how true is my people pleasing? How true is it? And that was an interesting night, and I've been really thinking about it since. And the funny thing is, once you have those moments where you get really real with yourself, your life starts changing quite quickly. Soon after, you get lots of little confirmations. And so I know vulnerability and opening up is a big theme for me.
No, I think that's great. I mean, I'm at the stage now where I say to my soul or my core or whatever, I say, just show me the truth about me. I don't care what comes up.
Wow.
Just show me the truth about me. And I say that every day, because, I mean, if people said to me, you've murdered in a past life, you've been a rapist, you've done this, that, and the other. Oh, well, there you go. That's the feeling I have now. I'm not, there's nothing about me. As far as I know, because I went through a really deep cleansing process with other people, and I've admitted the things that I've done, every single bit of shit that I've ever been involved in. I've admitted that to another human being. Right.
Yeah.
And I've gone back to people that I hurt very badly, and I've apologized face to face with them, unless it caused them harm in relationships that they're in now and stuff like that. Because I had to work with a wise, sensible person, and I'd say, well, what to do with this person? They say, forget that one, that will be washed away in time. You need to go and say face to face with that one. So I had to get over loads of courage, and I had to say to people, I'm really sorry for what I did to you. Right, in drinking, and also not when I was drunk as well. I apologize profusely. If there's anything that I can do to wipe the slate clean. Now, most people said, Joe, you were a lovely fella. You get drink down here and you were like the devil himself. And right, so good luck to you. We're glad you. Now, some people said, F off, and I never want to see you ever again, ever. Now, I go back to this person that was helping me. I said, they're really upset and they never want to see me again. And they said, Joe, were you honest with them? Right. And I said, yeah, totally. Did you argue with them? Not at all. Right. Your job is done. You have cleaned your side of the street. Right. So forget it now. You've been forgiven for that. And I had to go through that process. And it was terrifying. But as I got more into it, I could see the benefits, because as you've just said there, as new truth comes in, so does new flow. And new power comes in, new self-confidence comes in. And then in the end, you get to a state where you couldn't give two shits what anybody else thinks about you, right? And that's more or less where I'm up to now. Right, I don't care. Louisa, I know we're coming up to time now, but this is what I've learned is that serenity is inversely proportional to expectations. Now, expectations means to look outwards. So if you're looking outwards, expecting anything's going to happen, right, you must have some sort of an idea of how you want it to go.
Yeah.
Right. That's the ego trying to control situations.
Yeah.
So I also learned along with that is have no expectations, just deal with what emerges from one moment to the next, using your innate essential skills and attributes, and have a laugh and see how you get on with it. Right. And like you said, you can change it in the moment if you're onto it, or you can sit at the end of the day. You can look back and say, okay, well, that snuck up on me. I'll have to watch out for that next time, and stuff like that. So, but that's how I sort of live my life now. I really have been freed from what will other people think of me. That is the biggest freedom I've ever had in my life, because what's become more important is, Joe, what do you feel about yourself? And do you know what my answer is? I'm not doing too badly at all, and I'll try and do the same again tomorrow.
That's beautiful. That is so nice. I love that very much. And I love how you start each day. Each day is just a new experience, a new chance to go deeper, to surrender more, to follow life's flow. I love that. We've got a couple of comments coming in. As often happens as we get to the end of the show, people want to say a few last things. We've got New Binette here from the States saying, I just try to let go. And then she's also added in, funny, I was just thinking of A Course in Miracles. Well, mainly the person who introduced this to me when I was sitting on a bench on campus, feeling my most miserable. And it's Dear Sam. Is that the person that put you onto A Course in Miracles? Or is that, you starting a little letter, New Binette? Dear Sam, I'm not having a very good day today. Help me out. Give me some guidance. But thank you for sharing that. I think the Course in Miracles is quite powerful for so many people. So
well, let me just tell you a quick story about that. I was walking up Bold Street in Liverpool, and I didn't know what to do. I'd only just got onto this sort of pathway. And my sponsor, they called a sponsor, he said to me, just open your heart up and say, give us a clue. So that's what I did. Yeah. And I'm walking up Bold Street, and I got this feeling, go into this bookshop. So I went into this bookshop, up 2 flights of stairs, went up to this sort of stack, pulled out the first book. It was dead thick, Course in Miracles. Right. And I did the first couple of pages. I thought, I can't get my head around this. But I can see clearly now it's an unwriting of the scripts that have been put in there,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the Course in Miracles, I've not actually read it myself, but I know lots of people who do read it, and, they go around every year, they read it again, and they go deeper and deeper into it. I think it's one of those things that keeps on giving, isn't it? Oh, right. We've got another comment from Jackie Grant. It's just saying, expect the unexpected. Like that, which is very much living on the edge, isn't it? Yeah. I guess if you are living on the edge, you're not having these expectations. You're not forward planning. You're just being ready in the moment and finding the right heart space. Yeah. And she's also added, thanks for a great show. Well, thanks for being fantastic in the chat room and saying hello to us. Right. Well, I think it's probably time to go. Have you got a final thought you wanted to share with us?
No, I think the most practical step for me would be the hands-on heart, or that area. Either cradle the child, or imagine that you're cradling a pet, something that brings with it a warm-hearted feeling. And the important thing is, if you can get down to it, is big, deep breath in and big, deep breath out. But make sure that the inspiration and the breathing out are the same length, because that's where the alignment and the synchronicity comes in. And as you practice this more and more, if it works for you like it worked for me, right, you will find more and more clear space in the gap between breaths, and that's where the true inspiration will sort of emerge then. So I would say, it's only half an hour a day, 3 10-minute sessions, but find a nice quiet place where there's hardly any distractions, and just get the feeling. So it's really focusing on a feeling, and don't worry about your thoughts. Your thoughts will try and come in to say, this is nonsense, this and all that. Just bring them in, smile at them and say, look, give us a break. This will work for us. And breathe it away. So if you feel an emotional attachment, breathe it away. Breathe it away. So that's what I would say is a simple, practical technique. I think the Institute of Heart Math in America, they have instruments that can actually show you how you're doing this now. And I think that they're brilliant. They've got loads and loads of inspirational stuff there. So I'd sort of suggest and encourage you to go and have a look at them as well.
Fantastic. Excellent. Well, thank you wherever you are in the world. I can see we've been joined by quite a few people tonight. Thank you, Dr. Effing Joe. Thanks, Joe.
I wasn't too bad tonight, was I, on the effing side?
You were very good. What did we say? Bollocks and, nothing else really.
I think there was a shit in there somewhere along the line.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. It was great. I just like how we can be, like lighthearted and kind of relaxed and irreverent. There's a lot of emphasis put on things to make it really special. And in actual fact, we're really talking about our everyday experience, aren't we? Making spirituality really can be an everyday experience. It should be.
Yeah. And I think if it's not practical, it's not spiritual. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
And more than anything else is, lightheartedness is the key. And if we've lost our sense of humor, I honestly feel that we're on the wrong path, because, I think people are becoming more and more responsive. Oh, what about this? What about that? What about that? That's the trap, really,
Yeah.
And if you can tap on your heart and say, look, there's so much going on, give us a clue, right? Yeah. And make it joyful. That'll be jolly good. Thanks very much.
Excellent. Excellent. Right, on that bombshell, I'm going to end the show. But thank you so much, wherever you are in the world, for joining us today. Join us another time. I'm sure we'll have Dr. Joe back another time. But anyway, take care, be peaceful. And if we can be of any help, then just check in the show notes. You'll find all of our contact details. Anyway, lots of love. Bye for now.
Thanks, everyone.